Welcome to the wrap-up of the October 16th, 2023 Mojave County Board of Supervisors meeting. And with us now is the supervisor, Ron Gould. We're going to talk especially about this one item that was on the agenda on that particular meeting. That was item 38, as a matter of fact. And there are a lot of people here for that.
There were quite a few people, and we've been having some pretty big meetings lately. And a lot of it stems from the Biden administration has pushed out just a ton of money through their so-called Deficit Reduction Act that for incentives on solar farms.
Yes.
Mojave County being a large county with a lot of land area and abundant sunshine, we've got out of the area corporations that want to come in and put up solar farms to harvest the money from the federal government is what they're really doing. We have no control over the federal land, though. So if it's Bureau of Land Management land or Forest Service land, we don't have any control over that, but we do have control over private land. And over the last year, since this Deficit Reduction Act has come out, the number of applications for solar farms on private land have doubled. So what the board decided to do was to take a 240-day moratorium on permitting any new solar farms on private land until we can get ahead of this and come up with some standardized regulations and rules regarding view screening and setbacks and whatnot to kind of standardize all of this. Rather than how it was going down, it was whatever was the whim of the board at any particular time. And that's not really a good way for the government to regulate things. We should put everybody on a level footing. Had a lot of email come in the last week or so. A lot of it is generated by the solar industry claiming that this was going to stop solar, and it's not really going to stop solar. We're just trying to take a break so that we can get out ahead of it and come up with some rules.
There seems to be an enormous amount of controversy on anything dealing with solar.
Right. There's quite a bit. Part of it's the Green New Deal kind of thing, and really, why should we have to have huge solar farms in our area for electricity that goes to other areas? So we get the downside of these. We get to look at the things. We lose the use of the land. A lot of the BLM land is multi-use land, so it's for ranching, recreation, and hunting and that kind of thing. So we have to give up those things which actually we enjoy here in Mojave County, and it also brings in tourism. I don't think many people are going to come to look at a solar farm, to tell you the truth. So we get all the downside and we get none of the upside. Most of the power is going to go to California and other areas. The local utilities, what we did exempted the local utilities. So if they actually owned the project and it was going to go into our local power grid, that's not under the moratorium. And if you were a business that wanted to put solar panels on their own property for their own use, that is exempted from the moratorium also. So that you can do that. What's actually under the moratorium is if you're going to sell that into the power grid on the spot market pricing, into the grid more so than for local use. But it's interesting because you've had a big pushback on solar on these farms. I don't think anybody's particularly concerned with rooftop solar on people's homes. And the moratorium doesn't affect that either. The Corporation Commission mandate that they placed us under about a decade ago, half of the power of this 15% set aside for solar energy has to come from rooftop solar anyway. And we can debate whether that was a good idea or a bad idea. We're stuck with it. We're stuck with it now. But solar has become quite controversial. Mainly because our folks don't want to look at it, to tell you the truth. The water usage is minimal, but it's still something that people are concerned with because, especially in the Kingman area, we found out that we don't have as much water up here as we once thought that we did.
Right. Well, one other item that was on the agenda, this is actually a consent item that was pulled, and it deals with the precinct committeemen and some resignations that were handed in, and the board gets involved in that, and there's a little confusion about that and how and why the Board of Supervisors gets involved in a political party like this.
Sure, and most people have no idea what a precinct committeeman even is.
Right.
The political parties, the Republicans, the Democrats, the Libertarians, which are the only three parties that have ballot access currently, I believe, in Arizona. I don't know if the No Labels Party actually has ballot access or not, I'm not sure. But under state law, for every 125 voters for your party, you get a precinct committeeman, and they're actually elected officials. You elect them at the primary election. And what you're electing them to do is to be your local representative for that party. And they're supposed to work to register voters and to get out the vote in the general election, and basically be your neighborhood party representative. So if you have any questions about things, if the system's working correctly and people do what they're supposed to do, then the people in your neighborhood know you, and if they come up with an idea, they'll give you a buzz, and you kick that idea up the chain of command. The reason that it's in statute is because of the way that we have partisan primary elections now, because that was not always the case. How it worked in the past is your party put up a candidate. So the precinct committeeman in that district, say for the state legislature, the precinct committeeman in that district for the legislature, they caucused, and they would pick the Republican Party's candidate or the Democrat Party candidate. That was a caucus system. Some states still use that, but not too many of them. But people decided that that was kind of a closed shop kind of way to choose the candidate. So they went to partisan primary elections. So you then went to the government and said, we want to hold these elections. So the government then put rules on how that's run and how the precinct committeeman system is all run. Because before that, they could probably apportion delegates however the parties chose to do it. But say if you're going to bring it under the government and put it on a regular election, which it's a better process, it's a way more open process, then you have to follow the government's rules. So we get into this Board of Supervisors fills vacancies in elected officials. So if your state, like Kelly Ward, for example, resigned from being a state senator when she was challenging John McCain several years ago. So that meant that that seat was then vacant, and she resigned, so she filled out a resignation form. That seat then became vacant. The process to replace her is she was a Republican, and she was from Mojave County, even though that legislative district is bigger than just Mojave County. So she was from Mojave County, and she was a Republican, which meant the precinct committeeman, Republican precinct committeeman from Mojave County caucused. They put together three names of three candidates. Those get forwarded to the Board of Supervisors for Mojave County, and the Board of Supervisors then picks from those three people. And whoever they picked, in that case, they picked Sue Donahue. So Sue Donahue, that used to work for Supervisor Johnson, she went down and finished out Kelly Ward's term as a state senator. The process is similar for the county, countywide officials, the treasurer, the assessor, not the clerk of the court, because the clerk of the court's actually under that comes from the Supreme Court. But the assessor and the recorder and the treasurer. So if we've had vacancies, actually both of those have come, the treasurer and the recorder have come vacant in the last couple of years, and the assessor actually became vacant maybe 6 or 8 years ago. The Board of Supervisors then appoints to fill that vacancy. So it works the same with precinct committeemen, is if a precinct committeeman decides they're going to resign or that they move, then the Board of Supervisors will, the way the process is supposed to work is the party chairman will notify the Board of Supervisors that they believe that seat is vacant. The Board of Supervisors then determines if that seat is vacant, and then we take a vote to declare that seat vacant, and then we can put someone else in that position. The board can. That comes from the chairman of the Republican Party, so if it's a Republican. We then appoint that person to fill that vacancy. That person then has all the duties and responsibilities of an elected precinct committeeman. It happens quite often because there's way more precinct committeeman slots than there are people that are interested in doing the job. But so we're in a little, I don't think we've been doing it correctly. And that kind of came to light in a month or so ago. We had an issue where the chairman wanted us to remove 2 precinct committeemen from the Bullhead area. And the board ended up denying that, but it kind of brought to light that we weren't doing that properly, and that we weren't giving that the thought that it should have, because they're just filling out a form and giving us the form, and it doesn't have the signature many times of that precinct committeeman. So we're just kind of taking somebody else's word that they want to resign, and I don't think that's the right way. That doesn't give the
requirements are not being met.
Yeah, I don't think it meets the requirements. So we went ahead and continued those removals so we can come up with a process to do it correctly. And I think the process should be either the party gets a notarized signature from that person on a resignation form, and that's provided to the Board of Supervisors. Or if it doesn't come with that, then we need to send, a letter out to that precinct committeeman and tell them that the party has determined that your seat is vacant. If you want to contest that vacancy, you need to come to the Board of Supervisor meeting or contact us, between now and the next meeting. So that way we've got something that's solid. But the concern is that we may remove a precinct committeeman that didn't want to be removed, and would then get us in a bind. But we need to treat these like the elected officials that they really are. And I think it's important that we do things correctly. I'm former Mojave County Republican Party chairman. I did 4 years as the party chairman.
Right.
So we've been doing things wrong for a long time. So we've upset some people because they don't see that's how we've always done it. But just because we have always done it wrong doesn't mean that we should continue to do it wrong. I've irritated some people with that, but that's okay. We need to do it correctly.
All right, sounds good. Explained it very well. Want to thank you very, very much. This has been a wrap-up of our October 16th, 2023 meeting with District 5 Supervisor Ron Gould. Thank you very much. I'm Roger Galloway.